The day before her wedding, Amara opened her wardrobe and froze. Her wedding dress was gone. Then, her own mother looked her in the eyes and whispered, "I sold it." Amara woke up the morning before her wedding, grinning like a child. The kind of smile that comes from somewhere deep and can't be forced. 2 years of double shifts, skipped lunches and late nights counting every naira she had managed to save had led to this one morning. Still half dreaming, she walked to her wardrobe and reached for the garment bag. Her fingers closed around nothing but air. The hanger swayed gently, empty. On the floor lay the crumpled garment bag, and on the bed rested a folded receipt she was certain hadn't been there the night before. Her heart lurched. For one terrifying moment, she couldn't move. Then she snatched up the receipt, her hands already trembling before her mind could understand what her eyes were seeing. That dress had never been just lace and beads. It was every extra shift Amara had picked up at the hospital, every meal she'd skipped, every small sacrifice she'd made, so she could tuck another few notes into an envelope hidden beneath her mattress. Tomorrow, she was supposed to become Daniel's wife, the man who had loved every version of her, including the exhausted, broke, uncertain one. Clutching the receipt, she rushed downstairs and found her mother sitting quietly on the worn sofa, her hands twisting the edge of her wrapper. She looked as though she hadn't moved since dawn. When Amara demanded to know where the dress was, her mother opened her mouth, closed it again, and lowered her eyes. After a long, painful silence, she whispered, almost too softly to hear, "I sold it, Amara." "You sold my wedding dress?" Amara's voice cracked so sharply it startled even her. "Without even asking me?" Her mother swallowed hard before explaining that Amara's uncle had needed emergency surgery, that the hospital wanted payment immediately, and she hadn't known where else to turn. "But it wasn't yours to sell," Amara cried. "You could have called me. We would have figured something out." Her mother didn't argue. She didn't defend herself or raise her voice. She simply nodded, tears gathering in her eyes, and stared at the floor. The silence that followed felt heavier than any argument. For the first time, Amara noticed how tired her mother looked. Her face thinner than usual, her shoulders slumped, as though she'd been carrying something far heavier than guilt. By evening, the house buzzed with voices Amara barely heard. Bridesmaids called with questions, aunties arrived carrying food, and Daniel's name kept flashing across her phone. She couldn't bring herself to answer. She spent hours searching every bridal shop she could afford, hoping for a miracle. But nothing fit, nothing felt right, and nothing came close to the dress she had worked so hard to buy. Late that night, she returned home exhausted. As she packed a small suitcase, she remembered that her mother always kept important family papers beneath the old Bible on her bedside table. Hoping to find the receipt from the sale, she reached underneath and pulled out a worn brown envelope instead. Inside were hospital reports. Her hands froze. The patient's name wasn't her uncle's. It was her mother's. The dates stretched back months. Appointment after appointment had been missed or postponed. Bills had piled up, while every spare naira had quietly gone toward Amara's wedding. The dress hadn't been sold to save her uncle at all. It had been sold because her mother's illness had suddenly become impossible to ignore. The next evening, Amara found her mother sitting alone on the wooden bench outside the house, watching the sun disappear behind the rooftops. She quickly wiped her eyes when she heard footsteps. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Amara sat beside her. "I'm sorry," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I didn't know." She wrapped her arms around her mother, suddenly aware of how small and fragile she felt. Her mother smiled through fresh tears. "Every mother dreams of seeing her daughter happy on her wedding day," she said softly. "If someone had to lose something, I'm glad it was only a dress." Amara buried her face against her shoulder, wishing she could take back every angry word she'd spoken that morning. That night, Amara told Daniel everything. He didn't interrupt. When she finished, he sat quietly for a long moment, his eyes fixed on the floor. Finally, he reached for her hands. "We can always have another wedding," he said gently. "But you only have one mother." He suggested postponing the celebration and using the wedding funds for her treatment instead. Some relatives protested. Others called them irresponsible, insisting they had already spent too much to turn back. Daniel simply smiled and squeezed Amara's hand. "We're choosing family." The following morning, surrounded only by close relatives, they exchanged vows inside the hospital chapel. Amara wore a simple cream dress borrowed from her cousin. Daniel wore the same suit he had planned to wear all along. And from her wheelchair, Amara's mother watched them with tears streaming down her face. It wasn't the wedding they had imagined. By the end of the ceremony, neither of them wished for a different one. Amara ran her fingers across the lace, but this time she saw more than beads and fabric. She saw every sacrifice her mother had made without asking for thanks. The dress had come home. But by then, Amara understood that what had made her wedding unforgettable had never been the gown. It had been the love that carried her family through the hardest season of their lives.